Dear students, welcome and good morning to all students. I hope you are safe and have a good time with your family. Here I am Rakesh. Students, let us understand the topic honestly. Today I will discuss about features, problems and policies of agriculture and India's foreign trade. First of all, I will discuss of agriculture in the Indian economy. It has the following observation. Number 1, contribution to GDP. Agriculture makes a significant contribution to gross domestic product in India. Supply of base goods. Base goods are the necessities of life such as wheat, rice, pulses, oil seeds, etc. Then sources of employment, supply of raw material, sources of demand for the industrial goods, contribution to international trade as well as domestic trade, support to the transport industry, wealth of the nation. A significant component of the country's wealth belongs to agriculture sector. In terms of fixed assets, land occupies the highest rank in India. Now I will explain some of the features of Indian agriculture at the time of independence. Following are the principal features of Indian agriculture. Number 1, low productivity. It means output per hectare is very low. It is a sign of backwardness. Then disguise unemployment. It means more people are working in an economic activity but actually required less number of people. Our agriculture totally depends on rainfall. It implies good rainfall, implies good output. Poor rainfall implies poor output. Then subsistence farming, farming for self. Those who have enough land, they are producing food grain items, but rest they are not getting opportunity to do so. Lack of modern input, and in most of the states the farmer having small holdings, landlord tenant conflict, landlord is not paying a proper money or reasonable money to the tenant, and tenant is not doing his work honestly. So it implies low agriculture output. And last, conventional technology. We are totally dependent on old technology, not able to use the modern techniques of technology because of backwardness. And now I will discuss problems of Indian agriculture. Indian agriculture faces many problems. Some of these are lack of permanent means of irrigation, deficiency of finance because country is poor, conventional outlook, small and scattered holding, land owner and the tiller conflict, lack of organized marketing system. Because of these problems, productivity remains low. Now some of the reforms in Indian agriculture, or we can also say these are the agrarian reforms. To solve problems of Indian agriculture, Government of India has taken a series of reforms, measures Since independence, these are also known as agrarian reforms. Number 1, technical reforms. Number 2, land reforms. Number 3, general reforms. Technical reforms, it includes the following. Number 1, use of high yield variety seeds. Since 1965, high yielding variety seeds have replaced conventional varieties, especially in food grains. This led to substantial rise in crop productivity. This breakthrough is known as Green Revolution. Then, use of chemical fertilizers. Chemical fertilizers are being increasingly used to enhance the productivity. It implies drastic increase in production in agriculture sector, especially in food grain items. Then use of insecticide and pesticides, scientific farm management practices. Stress has been laid on scientific farming. It relates to selection of crop and their quality, preparation of soil, rotation of crops, selection of seeds, and the use of fertilizers properly. In this connection, Integrated Rural Development Program IRDP has been launched by the government to speed up the process of growth in agriculture. In this regard, agricultural universities are engaged in promoting research on scientific cultivation. Then mechanized means of cultivation. Several measures has been taken in this regard so as to enable the small farmers to buy agricultural machines. Cheap credit facilities are provided by cooperative societies, small and marginal farmers agencies, regional rural banks, and commercial banks, etc. are established. Now these are some of the general reforms. Now I will discuss land reforms. So let us understand. Number 1, abolition of intermediaries, regulation of rent. Rent has been fixed because there is a conflict between owner of the soil and the tiller of the soil. So rents have been fixed. Generally, these are not to exceed 1/3 of the value of the crop. Consolidation of holding. It is a practice to allot land to the farmer at one place as a replacement for his scattered holdings here and there. It saves the cost of cultivation and increase the production. Then ceiling on land holding is the maximum size of cultivable land that an individual or a family can have. The surplus land distributed among the landless laborers. Then farmers are encouraged to do cooperative farming. Next, general reforms. The government expanded irrigation facilities with a view to raising productivity in agriculture have been expanded. Now irrigation is covering about 45% of land under cultivation. Government also provided credit facilities through cooperative societies have been set up to provide credit to the farmers at low interest rates. Also, Rural Development Bank, primary agriculture credit societies, primary cooperative agriculture, regional rural bank, and the most important at the end, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, in other words, NABARD, were established. Then government also took the step to establish regulated markets. These markets have been established across all parts of the country. These markets are governed by the market committees appointed by the government, and farmers were given price support policy. Under this policy, government fixes the minimum support price to the farmer for his produce so as to protect him against uncertainties of the market. The government committed to buy surplus produce of the farmer at the minimum price as and when the market price was lower. So, after doing these reforms, some of the achievements of agrarian reforms, or in other words, we can say green revolution. Thanks to agricultural reforms, there is a substantial improvement in Indian agriculture. Agriculture has emerged from backward economy to developing economy. The achievement is so that it came to be known as Green Revolution. It has two phases, that is mid-60s and mid-70s. First phase is mid-60s and mid-70s, and second is mid-70s to mid-80s. It has following features: spurt in crop productivity. There has been a substantial rise in crop productivity. It led to structural shift of Indian agriculture. This has led to long period stagnation in Indian agriculture. Number two, substantial rise in production per hectare. People are shifting from subsistence farming to commercial farming. Farmers are changing their outlook. They are selling their product in the market and earning money. And the most important, the country is self-sufficient in food grain production. Now we are not only self-sufficient but also exporting to other countries. Briefly, owing to technical, institutional and general reforms, India has achieved a substantial rise in crop production through increase in productivity as well as increase in acreage. The rise in production and productivity has been so substantial that it is popularly known as Green Revolution. So, in spite of feature, there are some limitations. Failure of green revolutions. Number one, crops are only limited to food grains. Uneven spread, it is spread only in few states. Limited farming population, the benefit goes to the large farmers. And there is a economic divides. Rich farmer got the one benefit of the green revolution, but poor will still not getting the benefit. So hence, briefly, achievements are praiseworthy. That is why today, during COVID-19, countries providing food grain to each and every citizen of the country. But on the other hand, we should focus on another green revolution so that we should not dependent on other countries, especially for essentials. Now I will explain the strategy of industrial growth between 1947 to 90. The strategic growth is importance is given to industries so that sources of employment can be generated. Agriculture can be done through mechanized means of farming so that there is a dynamism to growth process. It will increase the infrastructure, so industrialization has emerged as an inevitable route to the process of growth. Dear students, some of the factors which are required by the Government of India in industrial development with the view of the following factors. Number one, lack of capital. Industrial development needs huge push of investment on capital expenditure. At the time of independence, Tata and Birla are the only industrial houses. These houses cannot fulfill the increasing demand of the country, so state participation is must. State means government participation is must. Through public sector undertaking, that was the need of that time. Number two, low inducement to investment. It is because low income, low demand. It results limited size of market. Low inducement to investment means low inducement, investment and low income. So this is vicious. So this is a vicious circle of low investment which shows the backwardness of the country. And growth with social justice, the government realized that industrial development can be achieved only through direct participation of the state. So Government of India declared IPR 56. IPR stands for Industrial Policy Resolution. Industrial Policy Resolution. In the process of industrialization, following were the principal elements of IPR 56. Number one, threefold classification of industries, industrial licensing and industrial concession. This process of industrialization has two broad dimensions. Number one, growth of large scale industry and growth of small scale industry. This process of industrialization further has three typical characteristics of SSI. Number one, it is labor intensive and therefore employment friendly but generating less income. It shows locational flexibility and is therefore equality. It needs small investment and therefore equity oriented. Now, dear students, I can conclude salient features and its good and bad impact during the period of 1950-90. During the period between 1950 to 1990 of the strategy of industrial growth. Some of the features: public sector means government undertaking play a central role. what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Number 2, a private sector play a secondary role. Number 3, it focused on import substitution. Import substitution means protection of our own industry from foreign competition. Next, protection was to be offered through heavy duty on imports and fixation of import quotas. Large scale industry was to be developed with a view to increase infrastructural base. Small scale industry was to be developed with a view to increase employment and equity. So these are the some of the features, and now its good effects. Economic growth got a big push. Country like India, sunrise industry, it means electronic, but in particular, marked its emergency in the domestic economy. Growth of large-scale industry projected infrastructural shift in the Indian economy. Growth of SSI, small-scale industry, made a substantial contribution in achieving the objectives of growth with social justice. So now, students, I will explain the bad effects. It has some bad effects because as the time is changing, world is making progress. Public sector monopolies gradually turned to inefficiency, corruption, leakages, etc. are the principal feature. So failure leads to adopt LPG policies. Protection of domestic industry stimulates its growth, lacks competition. Saving of foreign exchange through import substitution proved to be inefficient as the increasing demand of the country. So at the end of 1990, these stocks reached their bottom in such a way that Government of India do not have enough foreign exchange to run the country. So at that time, the then Prime Minister Shri Lal Bahadur Shastri pledged our gold reserves with the World Bank to salvage our borrowings and other needs. So with the passage of time, bad effects shadows good effects. This led to emergency of new economic policy. Now students, in this regard, I will explain India's foreign trade at the time of independence. So first of all, let us understand the meaning of foreign trade. It is the exchange of goods and services among different countries. During first 7 5-year plans, India's foreign trade was featured by inward-looking trade strategy. In this context of international trade, observe the following points. International trade based on international specialization. On the other hand, international specialization based on the principle of comparative cost advantage. The cost of the product should be lower as compared to other competitive countries. International trade helps finding markets in rest of the world for surplus domestic output and the urgent needs of the goods and services in the world. International trade is an important means of earning foreign exchange for making rapid growth and development in the country. It enhances opportunity of investment, promotes the qualities of the life of the people. Hence, at the end, I can say it accelerates the pace of GDP growth. This policy protect and promote domestic industry from foreign competition in this way. So before discussing, I would like to understand, so let us understand the meaning of some important terms. First, export promotion. It is a strategy to promote exports by making domestic industry competitive in the international market. It helps to earn foreign exchange. Import substitution is a strategy to promote domestic production of those goods which a country has been importing to save foreign exchange. To discourage import quotas were imposed. Tariff. These are taxes on imported goods and goods become expensive. Quotas. It refers to maximum quantity of goods which can be imported. So students, before discussing the impact of inward-looking trade strategy, I would like to explain why 1991 a year of great divide. India's foreign trade has tended to gain momentum only after 1990. It is because till 1990 we were dependent on a different trade strategy. We were dependent on inward-looking trade strategy which failed to yield the desired result. It was only in 1991 that we shifted to the strategy of export promotion, which triggered as a rise in export and imports. So now I will discuss the impact of inward-looking trade strategy on the domestic industries and its good impacts as well as bad impacts. Good impacts, these are high rate of industrial growth with structural transformation, road, rail, air, power, transport, communication, school, college, universities, health, etc. Diversification of industrial growth and opportunities of investment. Now some of the bad impacts. These are as growth of inefficient public monopolies, lack of competition, implied lack of modernization, indiscriminate spread of public monopolies, economically unviable state enterprises. So, hence at the end, students, I can conclude the government started realizing that the bad impact of inward-looking trade policy were overshadowing the good impacts, so that government compelled to adopt the new economic policy. That will be discussed in next chapter. So, student, this is the end of the chapter. Thank you very much. If you have any problem, you can call me, you can send the message so that I can solve your problem. Thank you very much.